I like that, you say what is on your heart, but it's coming from a place of love. And I have to tell you that in 2020, I said, I am going to sit down and speak to her. So listen now, I don't play.
So many of you are on your love comeback. But have you ever thought about what it means to start your love journey with yourself? That's right, with you. So today, my guest, her book, The Self Vows, 7 Vows That Will Change Your Life, is a must-read for anyone ready to have the tough conversations, lean into the process, and press reset. You've seen her on NPR, E! and Fox. Please welcome Dr. Michelle R. Hanna. Dr. Michelle!
Hi.
What do you feel are the areas in our lives as individuals that we should really be certain of before entering a relationship?
That you like yourself. Let's just start there first. And that you've experienced what it is to really fall in love with self. And then what it is to have an evolution of love with self. So I would say that, and I would also say that you have become a little bit of an expert at setting the boundaries, because that's going to really help how you date when you get married or through your engagement, or just through the dating process. That's definitely going to help, is knowing how to set boundaries. That's something that's really huge amongst people when they come in, whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship, is not knowing how to set boundaries. So that's extremely important.
Setting boundaries is something that, a lot of us struggle with for a multitude of reasons. And when we talk about setting boundaries, we often think about setting boundaries interpersonally. But when you're talking about the self vows, your book about really committing to yourself, we're having this relationship or this conversation a little differently. So tell us about the self vows.
So the self vows is actually my take on the traditional wedding vows to self. So you are familiar with to have and to hold from this day forward. That's how it starts out, right? And we look forward to saying those vows to someone else. You know what's really funny though, now that I think about it? Most of the time, people get married, and whether it's 4 months into it or 4 years, and they don't remember the vows. They actually make up vows, that were not even in there. So, but they don't even remember what they said to that person, And so when you take those precious vows to yourself, you will have to keep renewing, keep recommitting, because life will happen, right? But they mean something to you so at your core that then when you show up in a relationship, those vows mean something totally different, right? And then even in my relationship with my husband, he'll say, okay, so in this situation, now I'm not talking about us, I'm just talking about with you. Are you really practicing to have and to hold from this day forward? Just a question, and that's what he'll do. Just a question, and leave it at that, right? And then he'll let me sit with it, and then I'll do the same thing with him, because he had to take his self vows, and as I'm still evolving, he's obviously still evolving, and we will be still evolving until we take our last breath, because we are so committed to those self vows. It really, it makes you be a better person. It causes you to definitely want to reach your full potential and to be committed to self and stop that self-negative talk. Like sometimes we got to check ourselves, like, wait a minute, what? Did you just say that to me?
Right. Right.
Because I'm talking to myself. Did you just say that to me?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'll get in a funk about some things, right?
Right.
But it doesn't give us the right to then turn that internal to ourselves, So you gotta, like, if you need a hug and maybe there's nobody there to hug you, especially this year, if you're living on your own, right? You gotta just, because no one knows like how you need it. Right? So however you need it, like kiss, mwah, mwah, kiss you, like bring that into your space. There's no excuse why you cannot turn that internally and stop being a funk on, oh my gosh, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have, a girlfriend, or whatever the case may be, or I want to be married and my biological clock is ticking, and all of those things that come up, right?
Dr. Michelle, I have to just be 100% honest with you that I am really having an epiphany about some of my thought processes, because I have, I speak for a living, so I've said a lot of things, okay? But one thing that I have said more than once is I have been a cynic about the idea of people who are like, well, I'm just going to marry myself. Or, I made a commitment, I got myself a promise ring, or, and it's this thing where I'm like, well, why do you have to commit to yourself? And I've said this, I've said it all over the place. And when I listen to you and when I think about your book, The Self Vows, it really does make me think of these conversations that we have not only with ourselves, but with each other. Because when people talk about vows and they really believe in them, they're so committed to them, they're unwavering. But whether it's to their detriment or not, but they will not give themselves that same grace or commitment to self vows, to ensuring that they're protecting themselves and riding for themselves as hard as they may be riding for a relationship, for a marriage. So it does make me think differently. And I will not say that again the next time someone says that they are making a commitment or marrying themselves. I won't say it, and I promise you.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, right? You said they go so hard for the other person. You are 100% right. What's interesting in that, though, just a different perspective. Aren't you abandoning you, right? Like, we'll be in a relationship and say, well, I felt abandoned. I felt dismissed. You don't see me. You're not listening to me, right? But then we don't practice active listening to ourselves. And then we abandon ourselves when we don't do the self vows, because you actually owe that to you first before you even extend it to anyone else. And I totally understand your comment in terms of marrying yourself, because when the book first came out, and I do a self vows retreat, and it's like for 4 days, 3 nights. It's amazing. I spoil you like rotten for those 4 days. We do our work though, but there is a ceremony. And whether you are married or not, there is a ceremony. And you do wear white. And there are tears. And there's a ring. And there's all of that, right? But it's something so special about that, because there's a lot of women who have went through it and they were so focused on wearing a white dress for someone else. They were so focused on the dress and so focused on the wedding. But it was something about when they did that for themselves, it took all of the antsiness out of it and all of the rush out of it. It's like, okay, I put on a white dress, I had a ceremony. It was a wonderful weekend where I know I felt loved. I created sisterhood. I know people that really are going to have my back, whether it's for a season or a lifetime, right? And so now I can focus on making sure that when I bring myself into a relationship, right, that I've really done the work, and it won't be about the white dress. And it won't be about just the wedding, and the reception and all the wonderful things that happen. And then when you say I do, it'll be because you already did.
So listen up, Comeback community, because I spent a whole hour with Dr. Michelle. So you can check out the full podcast. There are so many nuggets of wisdom. And of course, check out her books, 2 of them, because she is a multi-book author. The Vows, a workbook for marriage success and understanding yourself, as well as the Self Vows, 7 vows that will change your life. Dr. Michelle, I so appreciate you. Where can our community find your books, your work, and just find you?
Well, you can go to my website, start off with that, and it is michellerhanna.com, or you can find me on over at IG at Michelle_R_Hanna, or if you are a Facebook lover, you can find me on Facebook at Mikel, Mikel, Life Coaching, and I would love to talk to your community.
Dr. Michelle, thank you so much. For more on Dr. Michelle R. Hanna, you can go to my online home, comeback.tv, where the podcast is live.